power sweep. Actually, it's the lead play in our offense.
Come and tackle, take the defensive end if he's over him. If he's not, you drive down the first man who is inside. Pull back and tell him to take the first man outside the offensive tackle. No one shows. Go right by them and field inside. If the YN has the linebacker taken out, that's inside. If the YN has the linebacker in, he comes all the way around. So look at this play. What we're trying to get is a seal here and a seal here, and try to run this play in the alley.
All right, what's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. You can find me on Twitter at Packers_access. I'm joined alongside Jacob from the Packernet Fantasy Podcast. We're live here on YouTube and Twitter. You can also find this specific episode, along with every other episode we do on YouTube and Twitter, at Packernet Podcast, anywhere that you get your podcasts from. You can just scan the QR code in the upper right. That'll send you directly to Packernet Podcast, and we've got a whole lineup of great Packers content. Now, let's kind of dive into it as we get ready. We're closing in on Monday Night Football. Jacob, I don't know about you, dude, but it feels like it's taken forever to get here, man.
Yeah, this whole week has been, I don't know if it's because the Bears played on Thursday and all that kind of stuff, but it really does feel like it's taking its extra time.
Yeah, definitely. Let's see, we got Zane in the house shouting out the PTA posse. Nick the Realtor in here with us. Tyus in the chat said that OU Texas game was nuts. #boomer. Yeah, man, that was a great game. I watched it start to finish, listened to the McAfee and his boys do the broadcast. So entertaining, man. Seeing Matthew McConaughey on the sideline and everything, and it was just really good, man. Another great installment of that rivalry for sure, with the Red River rivalry. So college football is a lot of fun, man. Jacob, I know you're keeping up with your Badgers, right? How are they doing right now?
They should be winning. I was going to have it on in the back, but I was worried we'd get a copyright strike or something like that, so I turned it off. They definitely didn't look great right out the gate, but they came around.
Gotcha. I got my Kentucky Wildcats playing Georgia here in a little bit, number 1 Georgia. So I think they're 14.5-point underdogs, which I would, with Georgia's run defense, I'd say hammer that with the spread there, take the points and hold on for dear life. But that's just me. Watch, we'll wrap this thing up tonight. Tomorrow morning, we'll be talking about how they got boat raced by 30 points, but you know how it goes. Also, we got Notre Dame playing a little bit later too. So we wanted to do the episode a little bit early. Obviously, everybody kind of hanging out. You're probably grilling. You're probably doing stuff around the house, getting ready here as the fall weather starts to set in. I know tonight we're supposed to get down to 37 degrees. What about you up there, Jake? Be getting cool up there?
And it's been, is that 37? Are you serious?
Yeah, that was the latest I've seen. Yeah,
right. We got a low of 42. That's crazy.
Crazy, dude. You're drunk. You're drunk, winter. Go home. That's wild. Absolutely wild. All right, let's do this. Let's kind of dive into some of the news that broke earlier this week. Jacob, this is something that kind of caught my attention. Obviously, we were waiting for Bakhtiari to speak. Matt LaFleur had said earlier in the week, hey, Bach wants to talk to you guys himself. And so he did that. Now, I just took a little snippet of, I think it was our guy, Paul Brettel, our Packers insider here for PTA, who had a cool little article on Bakhtiari and kind of some of the details that came out. I'm not going to read the entire article. I hate reading on the podcast because I know that's boring to some folks, but this is really good information. And you guys make sure you go over and click on this article. I'm sure you're already following Paul Brettel. Click on his Twitter X account and go to these articles and support him for sure. But he always just does a phenomenal job. Let's kind of hit on it here. It said, in short, it's not the ACL that has given Bakhtiari issues, but rather a femoral condyle cartilage issue, which provides cushion for the knee, although it hasn't been providing that in Bakhtiari's case. This is something that many athletes experience, but Bakhtiari in particular was affected more so by it. specifically with his knee swelling with fluid. In one instance, 160 cc's of liquid had to be drained. Bro, that is crazy. Quote, "It's the surface cartilage on my femur that is not smooth," said Bakhtiari. There's a bunch of guys. I mean, we play a wild sport. Certain guys you hear are bone on bone. That's the crazy thing. Am I even bone on bone? They're like, no, I have most of my meniscus. It's just the defect I have. I'm a symptomatic individual, and that's where I have just accepted. That's where, I guess that's saying that's just what I've accepted. Following the initial ACL injury that took place on New Year's Eve of 2020, Bakhtiari and the medical staff knew that this current outcome was a possibility, although that was not considered likely at the time. That last part pisses me off a little bit, Jacob, to be honest with you, man. It's like, we thought this could be an issue, but we didn't think it was likely. And maybe it's not as cut and dry or as simple as them fixing it, with preventive maintenance as opposed to let's patch it together and go out there. But it sucks for Bach. Obviously, his season is done, but he has already announced he's planning on coming back next year. He had some really good things to say about Brian Gutekunst and said, yeah, we have great communication. He even made a joke and said, my FaceTime works with Brian just fine, which I thought was hilarious. Obviously, if he comes back next year for the Packers, Jake, it's going to be on a modified contract or one of these scenarios where they just cut him outright. I mean, if he's going to be on the Packers roster, the contract's got to be adjusted. And I kind of get the vibe from Bach that that's probably the direction he would like to go. But then again, Goody may look up and go, I've had enough of this, and just cut him outright. And who can blame him, right? It's a business. It sucks. I like Bach. But what's your initial take on all that information, man?
And honestly, Bach might be one of my favorite personalities just in general. And he's obviously one of the best left tackles that have played in the modern era. So obviously if I could just look into my my crystal ball and see that he's going to be good, the knee's not going to be an issue. But dude, like you said, it's like 2.5 years of just up and downs here. Like this is not normal. And honestly, I'm a little surprised the guy is as gung ho to just jump back into the NFL. I mean, he's
me too. Yeah.
Plus 30. He's got to have more money than most people. I don't really know what I think about this situation, to be honest. I want to pull for him and I want him to have a comeback if he wants it. There's another part of my brain that says, dude, do you want to ever play with your kids again? Like, do you want to be able to bend over and stand up again? Like, it sounds like what the doctors are telling him that he's not there yet, but he could be there, especially with another injury. So I don't know what I think, man. I just know that for that money, yeah, definitely needs to be a restructure there.
Yeah, for sure. You can't have $40 million of cap tied up in one player, that's not a quarterback. And left tackle, don't get me wrong, it should be the second highest paid player on the roster. There's no doubt, but 40 million is just crazy, especially for, a situation where he hasn't been available, that often here lately. Adam Block in the chat said, just sitting here wishing we had a starting safety and that Newman doesn't play another snap for the Packers. Oh man. I'll tell you this though. I don't know if you guys seen the statistics coming out on Rudy Ford, but he's got the second lowest passer rating when targeted in the entire NFL. I'm telling you, man, our pass defense is pretty solid. It really is, when people aren't blowing coverages. But Rudy's been one of the bright spots. Now, there's two safeties, obviously, and I would agree with the comment you just made. Look at this right here. That's what I'm talking about. Carly Ray said, I'm so committed. I'm here listening while getting ready for a wedding, not on my own. Love it. Absolutely love it. I don't know who's getting married today, but tell them congratulations. Y'all have a great time. Just be safe. You know the drill, Carly Ray. It's not your first rodeo. I know this. I have swore off weddings. I would never be in another wedding. I even told my brother, hey, bro, you decide to get married, I'm not being in another wedding. I think I counted 8 so far, Jacob. 8. I've been in 8 weddings, bro. And I'm telling you, I am exhausted. I'm done with it. For someone who doesn't like to dress up and put on the old tuxedo or whatever, yeah, I'm done. I'm exhausted. Tapping out. So, all right, let's do this. So there was your Bakhtiari update. Obviously, a couple days late. but wanted to just kind of comment on it and give our take. And Jacob, I completely understand where you're coming from. It's almost like we're so early into this potential, comeback for Bach next year that let me think on it for about, I don't know, 6 months. Right. But for me, if you can say, yes, he's going to come back and be a top 5 tackle and he's going to play with a modified contract, like I said, I'm okay with him being the highest paid tackle in the game. I'm okay with that. But the highest paid tackle in the game will be somewhere to the tune of 32 million, which means we would free up 8 million in cap space, right? I could live with that because it's that important of a position. But if it's something where he's not willing to restructure and all that good stuff, then ask him, hey, who's your top 3 teams you want to be traded to? Give him that first opportunity and then move on from there. So, but it's tough, man. It's tough to see some of your favorite players move on, man. And like we talked about with Dick Butkus the other night, some of these players, even for your greatest rival, you get to a certain age in life where people, you look up and people that you respect and they bring you so much entertainment and all that stuff, they begin to pass away. It's the sucky part about life, man. That's why you got to slow down and enjoy it while you're in your prime and they're in their prime and everybody's enjoying each other. But anyway, injury report. We haven't had an official injury report yet. However, Bill Huber, just doing what Bill Huber does, provides us excellent feedback on what he thinks the injury report will be even before it's out. So right here we have a tweet from Bill Huber who said, final injury report out for Monday night's game against the Raiders. Safety Zane Anderson. Devondre Campbell is now officially out, which we all expected that. Questionable. Rudy Ford with his oblique. Cornerback Eric Stokes with the foot injury. Cornerback Jair Alexander with the back. And running back Aaron Jones with the hamstring. Now, one of the things that stood out to me here, Rudy Ford to me looked good in practice on the videos I seen. He looked like he was going, he was limited, but at the same time, when you seen him out there running, he wasn't holding back at all. Cornerback Eric Stokes actually made a few comments earlier in the week, Jacob, where like, I told him, hey, I'll be ready. Just if you need to use me in the dime back, whatever, just to get me back out there. That caught me off guard because I was kind of expecting them to err on the side of caution and use those full 3 weeks that they have before they have to activate him. And then cornerback Jair Alexander, I think there's a good chance he'll be going, and running back Aaron Jones, I think there'll be a good chance that he'll be going. Now, a couple of things here, Jacob. The first thing I want to mention, not on that list at all, on the injury report at all week, or at least starting yesterday, to the best of my knowledge, Rashawn Gary has completely been removed from the injury report. So he should be 100%. Aaron Jones seemed a little more limited today than he was yesterday because they held him out for a little bit of the practice. That could be precautionary, could be extra stretching. John Runyon, who we were a little concerned wouldn't play because we immediately said, well, that's great. Elton Jenkins will be back, but now Royce is going to be playing for Runyon. It looks like Runyon is going to be playing, okay? And then, of course, like I said, Devondre Campbell out. Now, when it comes to the offensive line, they're going to be completely healthy minus Bach for the first time this year, well, since week 2, right? That's exciting for me. But as far as that injury report, what are you excited about? What stands out to you, man?
Yeah, I mean, it's great to see Stokes out there and that he's actually, like you said, I'm a little surprised they aren't pumping the brakes a little faster with him. So it leads me to believe it's possible we could see him out there, which would be cool. Jair is starting to worry me a little bit with this back thing. I think Jones is good. I'm not too worried about that. I am. One, why do we still have Zane Anderson on the team? Like, I don't understand that signing. I don't understand keeping him. Goody's known for recycling the bottom end of the roster. So it's like, why don't we try to find – there's got to be somebody that's not having a hammy, that's not our, 6th-string safety or whatever. And then Devondre is starting to worry me definitely a little bit. When we talked about it's an ankle injury and everybody's like, oh, don't worry, though. It's not the same angle. I was like, okay, so now he has 2 bad ankles? Like,
that's exactly how I was when it happened. I went, oh, great. So it's not the bad ankle. And then I went, the hell are you talking about, Clayton? That's worse. Like now we got 2 flat tires. What in the world?
Yeah. So, I mean, other than that, I'm encouraged. Nice to see Jenkins. Jenkins is a go, right? Is that what it sounds like? I saw him out there doing some.
He's good to go, wearing the brace. Yeah.
Man, he's looking good. So I'm excited. LVN, right?
Yeah. Yeah, not even on the injury report at all.
I mean, right now, I think I would argue this is the healthiest this team possibly has been all year, other than maybe week 1, but probably more. So I'm excited.
Another thing that's kind of got me jacked up is, going into this it wasn't a mini bye, but, going into this long week, I guess you could say, Matt LaFleur told everybody, pick one thing that you want to work on, that you want to get better at, that you need to get better at. And they asked Jordan Love, what was the one thing that you picked? And he said completions. And immediately people thought completion percentage. Well, he meant accuracy. That's what he meant. I heard so many podcasts saying that. I'm going, why do people feel so why do they feel the need? Why do they feel like it's their responsibility to take what someone says and go, well, here's what they actually meant, right? That drives me insane. But he said completions, and later on in another interview, it kind of came out, and what he was meaning was talking about taking checkdowns, taking the plays that are on the field. And that was the biggest knock against him from me when I watched the Lions tape, was there was checkdowns all day long, and he just refused to go to them, and he wanted to push the ball down the field. And it's another reason why you kind of got away from the running game the way you did, because you were constantly facing 2nd and 10 as opposed to 2nd and 7 or whatever.
I swear I saw a tweet, and it was basically saying, like, let Jordan Love throw short to intermediate range throws, because they showed like the stat line from the I don't know if it was just last game or in total, but he's like 11 out of 11 when it's like from 0 to 5 yards. He's like 11 out of 13 from like 5 to 15 yards. And then it was like horrible anything past 15 yards, basically. So yeah, he's taking a lot of deep shots. I actually haven't realized until I go back and watch these games over, he chucks it down the field a lot. Like
a lot, man.
He just comes back, hits the hitch, and just whoop, there it goes. And we've talked about how that's been somewhat beneficial, even when we're not catching the ball, because of guys like Tay Wicks and stuff that are getting those pass interference calls. But it is a little bit kind of weird. You watch him; he does seem very accurate when he's making those short, intermediate throws. And I just wonder if it would definitely help his completion percentage. I'd have to imagine it's an obvious that it obviously would if he starts taking some of those, like you said, the gimmies, the checkdowns, which, yeah, dude, just take it. That's a 3, 4, 5, 6 yards, please, rather than throwing it that long over the person's head or, in front of him. It seems like I don't know what's going on with the deep ball. I know that was a knack that Ryan had on him going into the season, and it doesn't seem like he's been able to hone in the accuracy specifically on the deep ball. Every now and then he throws one and you're like, oh my gosh, that was unreal. And
Right.
you'll throw one where it's like 10 yards either ahead or behind the receiver, and you're just like, oh man.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's tough, man. Take what the defense gives you, because that's the thing coming into Detroit. If a bunch of knuckleheads like us are seeing it on tape that, hey, they're just chucking the ball down the field, I guarantee you the entire scouting department for a pro NFL team is seeing the same thing. So what do? They play their defense in a manner to say, okay, let's force him to take the check down, right? And if he doesn't, then he's playing right into our hands, and that's what you've seen most of the games. So we'll see how they adjust, but I thought it was cool that he mentioned that and brung it to the forefront, like, hey, this is what I'm focused on, because, man, everybody is dialing up these T swings, these lead T swing passes, and we have had it wide open several times, and Jordan's just not gone to it. And I'm telling you, man, A.J. Dillon on a T swing with a lead blocker and a +1 hat count, oh my God, you talking about getting his confidence back, right? So anyway, Garrett Stritzel in the chat said, looking forward to this team getting more guys back from the injury list. Can we bring in Jack Youngblood to teach these players to be tougher, man? It's tough, Garrett, because this is the new NFL, right? This is CBA. You take added practices away. You take, just all these little adjustments that they do, even starting at training, starting in the off season, right? In the OTAs. And you are removing more and more contact. You're removing more and more 100% speed type practices. Then when it's time to go, you know how it is. You haven't ran all year long. And all of a sudden you're going to play a game of pickup basketball. You're going to pull a butt cheek. It's just the way it works, right? So it's tough, man, because that's how the system is kind of geared right now. And I'm with you, man. I'd like to see a much tougher team as well, but it's just right now we're not having it. Elevated Shine in the chat, aka Prison Matt, says we just sneaking in afternoon podcast now. Yeah, we want to get in here early, man. There's some really good college football on later tonight, and I thought, you know what, people are going to want to watch that. I know I want to watch it. Why not get in here a little earlier? Jacob was available, so we did it. Elevated Shine then says, maybe Bach would drive the Rogers method and listen to some Dolphins mating. I tried it for a cut on my finger, but didn't seem to help. Well, you wasn't holding your mouth right there, Shine. All right, we'll just put it that way. I love how so many people, and I know Elevated Shine didn't take it serious, but there were a lot of people, Jacob, that took Rogers serious on that. What a weirdo. He thinks listening to Dolphins mating will actually help you heal faster. I'm going, you people, I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed, as you guys are well aware. But some of these folks out here, man, they are as gullible as they come. That's for sure. Let's see here. Adam Block, I can't think of a team being more loyal to a player than here with Dave. Very true, man. They've definitely held up their end of the bargain up to this point. That's for sure. And again, if they cut him loose, I'm not going to be sitting there bashing Goody because, it's business. It's the reason I don't get mad when players try to get their money either, right? It goes both ways. Tyus in the chat say Christian and Gary aren't on the list anymore with an exclamation point. No, they are not, man. That's what's really exciting. It looks like they're full go now, 100%, which is really, really good news. So, all right. And then Dalo in the chat says Jordan Love will have his breakout game this Monday. That would be absolutely awesome if he does. Now, I love this right here, Garrett Stritzel. I'm hoping Pretty Boy LVN crushes Pretty Boy Jimmy G. It's gonna be like a Zoolander out there, Jacob. It's gonna be throwing blue steel back and forth at each other. All right.
And so hot right now.
And exactly. Garrett Stritzel in the chat says stopping pressure from Max Crosby is the key for offense success. Now, I'm glad you brought this up. I went back and watched the tape. I watched every snap of the last Raiders game and really keyed in on Max Crosby because we were concerned that he was going to move around a lot. He does move from side to side. To the best of my knowledge, I didn't chart it, but the feel I got was 2/3 of the time he will be lined up over the right tackle in a wide 9 typically. He'll play a little 7 and a little 5 as well, but he'll be over the right tackle the majority of the night, and about 1/3 of the time he will move to left tackle. Now, that's not to say they'll do that exactly the same way against the Packers, but that's what we've seen in the last game. I did not notice him lining up in the A and B gap like Aiden Hutchinson did. So you can kind of check that off the list, I believe. If they do that, then that's simply because they went and watched the Lions tape and said, hey, why don't we do like the Lions did with Aiden Hutchinson? So there's a chance of it, but I have no reason to believe that's in the game plan for them right now. But, yeah, that is going to be the key, man, is stopping Max Crosby, no doubt about it. All right, Jacob, you had a couple things you wanted to hit on, man. Let's pepper those in real quick, and if we got time, we're going to hear from Mike Wall on a quick audio from another podcast where he talks about the offense and defense. But what do you got for us, bub?
All right, so a couple different things. I think I'm going to start with this, and don't get mad at me, guys, because I'm playing devil's advocate. Everybody knows that I've been on both sides of the fence. I was one of the Fire Barry guys probably a year plus ago, just because
he was wanting to fire Barry before firing Barry was cool.
I was yeah, and then all of a sudden Clayton started doing his freaking mind tricks, his Jedi mind tricks on me, so I started looking at the game in a different way.
Actually watching what's happening.
I was started like listening to the, learning about schemes and whatnot. So then I started being swayed in the other direction that these players aren't performing, and they're not. It's not necessarily an issue with the schematics and with the game plan. It's with the follow through and the execution. So then I just randomly the other day I was looking through PFF because we wanted to do on the Packernet Fantasy podcast. If we have time tomorrow morning, we're going to try to get one, or maybe tonight, just to look at the quarter of the year in review. Look at who's at the top 10 at each position. What surprises are there? What absolute shockers are there? Both good and bad, type of thing. And what I started looking at, I started just ranking the players. PFF, I believe they give you like 50 unless you modify it to get 100 or 200. So I'm looking at these top 50 positional players, and I'm like, wow, that's an old Packer. That's an old Packer. That's an old Packer. So here's what I gathered, and I wanted to see if in the last 2 or 3 years we could have possibly, and some of these players are just a bit outside of that, but most of them are going to be in these last 2 to 3 year time span, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're all struggling with our defense right now. We're talking about how we have this and that, worst defense, blah, blah, blah. Here's a list of either pro football players that are either not Packers, that were Packers, or maybe should have been drafted by the Packers and where they're currently standing. Micah Hyde, we all know him, 84.4. He's the 50th overall ranked defensive player in the league right now. A good highlight, Rashawn Gary, 39th with an 85.3. 35th, though, is Oren Burks. He's an amazingly good linebacker right now in San Francisco. He's got an 86.1 grade. The 25th is Isaac Yadam. Do you guys remember Isaac Yadam? He was on our team.
Yeah, I do.
I 88.6. He has like an unreal coverage grade, too. 52nd overall is Zadarius Smith. We all know him. Chris Barnes, guys, is the 82nd overall ranked player with a 79.3 grade. And I'll pepper in a couple of these two, Brian Branch and Kyle Hamilton. The 77th overall and 88th overall ranked player with a 79.6 and a 78.3. When you went and looked on the offensive side of the ball, I thought, well, maybe this is just what happens when you let guys go. Other than your, Cobb and Lazard, who are not grading very well at all, the next highest person I could see on that list that qualifies is Corey Lindsley, who's ranking 63.3. That's 102nd. And then Billy Turner with a 60.0 grade. So then I started thinking, like,
Billy Turner is who we thought he was.
So I'm sitting here going, did we not know how to utilize that talent? Or did they go to a different scheme and they just fit their talents better? But when I look at that list of players right there, it kind of does smack you in the face of like, we did not know how to get the best out of these players. And I'm wondering what your thoughts are on that. Imagine our defense right now with, let's say, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 players that are in the top 100. Yeah. Most of them in the top 50.
Jake Shavink in the chat said Isaac Yadam being good was on no one's bingo card. No doubt about it. Yeah, so I guess the question is, because how many players? 3, 4 players? How many players do you have there?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that were former Packers, 2 that we, in my opinion, should have drafted.
Gotcha. Are now on other teams and doing well, and you're saying, okay, we didn't utilize them right. Well, I mean, I don't know if you're specifically asking about just Joe Barry, or if you're just talking about organizationally, Packer-wise,
I'd argue other than Micah Hyde, all those players would have been playing under Joe Barry at one point or another.
Okay, so we got 4 that were playing under Joe Barry that are now succeeding in other places, basically, right?
Doing quite well compared to, Isaac Yadam again, Oren Burks, Chris Barnes. That's insane. Those guys were backups for us.
Yeah, and they're linebackers at that too, right? I mean, you got what, two there that are linebackers, Oren Burks and Barnes and Yadam. What position was Yadam?
He's a corner.
Corner. Okay, so cornerback. Gotcha. You guys know how I feel about this. Like, I get crucified for this a lot. I don't think there are any bad players in the league. I don't. I think there are good players and there are great players. And this is Mike McCarthy 101. Sometimes the difference between a good player and a great player is just fitting them into the perfect scheme and allowing them to use their talents to do what it is they do best, right? Without watching the tape, I don't really have an answer. Now we're going off PFF grade, obviously. Which we put a lot of stock in on this podcast. It's not everything. It's just another measurable, right? Yeah, I mean, there's really no way to argue against it, Jacob. He obviously, somebody else is getting more out of those players than Joe Barry got out, at least in 1 year, right? I'm assuming there might be a chance, like Barnes played with him, I think 1 full year, if I remember correctly. Well, he was with us last year, so 2 full years Barnes had with Joe Barry. Without them getting on the field, that's the other thing, too, that you got to take into consideration. Let's take Barnes, for instance, right? Barnes, why didn't he perform better for the Packers? Well, he was 3rd on the depth chart last year, right? Because we drafted Quay Walker in the 1st round, right? Who's to say he wouldn't have? And this is a funny side note. Ryan was not a Barnes guy, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong. I could be misremembering this, but Ryan Schlipp was not a big Chris Barnes guy. And like the 1st or 2nd year that Barnes was in the league, I posted, you could probably search this on the Packernet podcast Facebook page. I posted on there that I think that's what it was. Ryan asked, who is the most underrated player on this team, do you think, or whatever? And I said Chris Barnes. And I really like Barnes. I liked what I seen on tape. And man, he lit me up without mentioning my name in a podcast, which was hilarious. He was like, he's the most overrated guy, this and that. And it was like 2 years later, I was going, Ryan was right, dude. This dude sucks. He has done nothing. But then he goes on to another team, obviously, and he's having success. Now, is he starting? Do you know how many snaps? All that good stuff, Jacob?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I did look at the snap count for all these guys, and all of them were definitely not just a flash in the pan type thing. So I'm fairly certain, without looking it up, that he has played considerable snaps.
I got you. Cool. Yeah, I mean, the team's getting more out of him, right? You know, it's like Quay Walker with his physical ability. You put him, if you were to put him in a 34 zone blitz defense, I'm telling you right now, Quay would pop, in my opinion, because he's got the versatility to drop into coverage. He's got the speed to rush if you wanted to blitz him off the edge. And they're a very aggressive style defense. Like I immediately think of Mike Tomlin's defense. If you put Quay there, man, a hybrid backer in that. Now, when you go to a Fangio style quarters coverage, it's all about playing that mid-tier run gap integrity, right? Because your safeties are going to play top down, and you got to be able to cover deep, especially when you play country quarter spot drop. So, yeah, I really don't know what to say to it, man, to be honest with you, other than, they're getting more out of him for sure.
Yep.
I just thought now, how many players did we have starting last year or in previous years that went on to other teams and they're doing horrible? There's a bunch of those too, right? So yeah, that's bad, man. That's real bad. And I wanted Tunyon back. I wanted Mercedes back. I'm like, come on, man. They're so cheap. Bring them back. And they're played horrible. Yeah. So, all right, let's see here real quick. We got a new member of the PTA Posse YouTube group, Fred Henry. Hey, man, welcome aboard, buddy. We'll make sure we put your name into the drawing for the we're going to spin the wheel Monday night in the postgame show and giving away an autographed John Kuhn jersey. So you'll be entered into that. If you guys want to get your name into that hat, just become a YouTube member of the PTA Posse right there on the homepage. You can find it. Just click join, and you can join the group there. So make sure you do that. R Showers in the chat. Let's see what he had to say here. R Showers usually brings a combative spirit when it comes to Joe Barry, and I dig it. He says, Clayton, know deep down that Barry is not inspiring greatness or even greatness in our defensive mindset and execution. Even the players don't believe in what they're asked to do. My question to you, R Showers, is you got to be more specific when you make a bold statement like that. What do you mean what they're specifically asked to do? If by specifically asked to do, you mean fill in the B gap responsibility on a run fit in a goal line situation, that's what they asked him to do, and he didn't do it. He shot the C gap and completely whiffed. He was standing in the backfield like John Travolta going, where's everybody at, right? So you got to be specific when you go at people like that, right? You can't just that's what bothers me so much about the Joe Barry conversation. I've said over and over and over, you will never find on a podcast me saying Joe Barry's a good defensive coordinator. What you will find me saying is when you dig into the tape, here's what the tape is showing. The players are not executing the play that they're called to execute, right? And now we're into this vicious cycle of pulling them out of what they do in the Fangio system. And now we're playing cover one and cover one robber. Oh, by the way, we're blowing those coverages too. And we're getting beat for explosive plays. So you just got to be specific with it, man. If you're saying he's not inspiring greatness, I don't necessarily know what that means. Let's put it this way. Wink Martindale in New York right now, right? Did you guys hear him talk earlier today? Did you hear that, Jacob?
I didn't know.
So it was actually yesterday. Pat McAfee played the audio clip. They were basically asking him, you worried about Miami? And he's like, yeah, I don't think we can stop them. Is that inspiring greatness? Right? See, and again, I'm not saying Joe Barry is a great defensive coordinator, but when you get to the NFL, these coaches expect players to play at a certain level. That's what they expect, right? If you draft someone in the first round and you give them a huge contract extension, make them the highest paid player at their position, in which they've done two different occasions on two of these starters, and I'm tired of naming names because I don't like singling people out. It is a team sport, obviously. You draft them in the first round, you're saying, hey, look, you're a leader. You're a guy who's going to lead this football team. You give them a huge contract extension, and now you're telling me that another grown-ass man has to inspire them to be the best at their position? I'm sorry, man. Lombardi used to say it all the time, and this is what I think's missing from Green Bay right now, at least in their coaching quarter. He used to say, I'm not here to motivate you, right? Like, I'm not going to motivate a player. If you're scared of losing your job, that'll motivate you. That's the thing that these players don't have a fear of in Green Bay. If someone, Darnell Savage, for instance, right? Darnell Savage is still playing bad, right? I think we would all agree on that. He's still playing bad. Had a couple flashes of hope this year, but he's still playing. He's not playing at the tune of a fifth-year option, $8 million contract, and a first-round pick, right? Well, what happened last year? He got benched twice. Twice the coaching staff benched him. And then what did we do this offseason? We rewarded him with a fully guaranteed $7.8 million contract, right? So you think that the Packers are just going to sit him on the bench with $8 million eating up the cap? No. He's got his security blanket there now, right? You think for a second Lombardi would have rewarded a player for being one of, if not the lowest graded players at their position in the entire National Football League with a fully guaranteed $8 million contract? Think of how that conversation would have gone over. That would, yeah. So, Jacob, you got anything on? Well, let's see what we got. We got our showers one more time. Let's hit this again, then we'll get back to everybody else in the chat here. Greatness starts with doing their job. If you are a manager and your team doesn't perform, it is on you, right? What you permit, you promote. Your job is to get things done through others. Correct. So if a player is refusing to do their job or not performing their job, let me put it this way. I'm a business owner, right? And maybe you're a business owner too, our showers. Maybe you're an employee. As a business owner, I have employees. If I have an employee that I'm like, hey, look, I'm going to give this guy every opportunity to be great. Okay. This is what we're doing. Here's the game plan. I will spend extra time teaching you this game plan. We'll give you every tool. We'll give you the top-notch therapy that you need, physical, mental, emotional, whatever you need, dude. Here's the ultimate goal. It's for us to succeed together, right? And that employee goes out and underperforms, right? Do you know what I do as an employer? I go to them and say, hey, man, what am I missing here? How can I help you? What can I do to make sure you're being the best that you can be so the company can be the best it can be, right? And we can move forward together and live a better life together, right? And you provide those things. If the employee doesn't meet that criteria, guess what the next step is?
Bad.
Yeah. And that you do not have in Green Bay. When was the last time the Packers cut a first-round pick or traded them for that matter? Think about that. I'm seriously, you talk about culture. Think about this. When was the last time they cut or traded a second-round pick? Right now, and I'm doing this on purpose. I don't even know the answer right offhand. When was the last time they cut or traded a third-round pick? Right?
They get a very long leash with these guys. Look at Royce Newman. Royce Newman.
And that's what I'm saying is like at some point there has to be accountability. There has to be accountability, right? And Mike Wall did an excellent job. Matter of fact, I'm going to play the clip. And since we're kind of keyed in on defense here, I'm going to hit on this real quick. And here's the thing. Let's see, our showers. I think he said something right here. Let's see it real quick. He said, exactly, Clayton. I love you, man. You and I have plenty in common. I couldn't have said it better. So we agree on that. Great. The problem is Joe Barry can't cut a player. And if you think for a second that these coaches aren't sitting here going, man, this player is really underperforming, but I can't do anything about it. You know, you've got a three-headed monster. You've got Mark Murphy, right? Here, I'll give you a glimpse of who that is real quick, and I love Mark Murphy.
65%.
65%. That's third of the operation, okay? Then you've got head coach Matt LaFleur, right? And then the one that Jacob always refers to is when we get in the press conference, yeah, we really ought to try to run the ball more. And then you've got Brian Gutekunst, who, whether anyone wants to admit it or not, right? You sign a guy to a $150 million guaranteed contract, and then you trade him the very next year and have to accrue a $40 million cap penalty that year, right? Oh, and by the way, we won't get into all the details, but he didn't play the Aaron Rodgers situation perfect. I'm sorry. There's a lot of people that believe he did, but he did. Matter of fact, if you put that scenario into any other arena in everyday life, he's getting crucified for the decision he made. It's the extreme definition of buy high and sell low, what he did with Rodgers, right? So anyway, that's the three-headed monster, right? So LaFleur and Mark Murphy and Brian Gutekunst, they sit down, they go, okay, what do we have on the roster? What do we have to work with? How do we build this thing out, right? And then you get to the situation, Jacob, where it's like, okay, well, this player is underperforming. The GM most of the time will look at the coach and go, well, it's your job to get the best out of him. Look at his athletic profile. You see it? Like, why can't you get more out of it, right? And the coach is looking up and going, I give a rat's ass about the profile. Like, the dude can't play football, right? And Mark Murphy's in the back going, guys, let's just get along. Look at the sled. Look at the sledding hill. So, and again, it's somewhat of an extreme explanation or parallel, I guess you could say. But the point is, a lot more goes into it than just, all right, this guy's underperforming, cut him. This guy's underperforming, bench him. This guy's underperforming, Joe Barry's a moron because these guys can't tackle and can't cover their assignment, right? So I'm going to play this real quick, though, Jacob. I want you to hear it. And it really goes hand in hand with what me and our Showers agreed on right here. And that's what I've always said about Joe Barry is it's not the schematics. People, you're looking in the wrong place when you go, it's a scheme. You got them playing too far off. No, the scheme is fine. You're seeing blown coverages and missed tackles, right? So now the problem lies in it's not that they're not preparing the players, but they're not getting the most out of the players with their coaching style. That's what I've been trying to say all along, right? Now, again, on offense, I get a lot more leeway, right? I give a lot more leash. But on defense, if these truly are first-round talents, 7, 8 of them, however many there are, there's less leash there, boys. I mean, they're supposed to be the cream of the crop, the creme de la creme, right? But here we go. Let's hit this real quick. I want y'all to hear Mike Wall on the defense. This is Marcus Eversol's podcast. I want to give a shout out here. Awesome podcast called Better Call Eversol. It's live on WDUZ every day. Awesome radio station too. If you've got iHeartRadio, that's what I use to listen to it. But really good podcast. Marcus Eversol is a Packer fan at heart and does an excellent job. But here is him and Mike Wall talking about the defense.
The field, they're giving up 200 yards on the ground. How? Why? And for the love of God, why does this always seem to be a perennial problem here in Green Bay?
Well, that's the $1 million question, and it starts with, I think Matt LaFleur came out and said something to the effect of, and I don't want to misquote him, something to the effect of there's nothing there that scheme can't fix. And I think that's a problem. I think that's just a fundamental issue of how we think about, improving play on the defensive side of the ball right now. You have, depending on your count, 7, 8, or 9 guys that are first round, 6, 7, or 8 guys that are first round draft picks on the defense side of the football that could be in the game at any given time. You have to maximize their ability to beat the person in front of them, execute the scheme the way that it is designed, be aggressive and physical and fly to the football, make tackles. When I see a guy like Quay Walker, who, again, I think is going to be a good player in the National Football League, but when I see him not attacking the ball at the line of scrimmage, not attacking the blocker at the line of scrimmage, engaging with contact 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 yards past the line of scrimmage, leading the team in tackles, but also leading the team in tackles that gives up over 200 yards a game. Mm-hmm. I see that there's just room for individual improvement in the way that we're executing our positional requirements. So I think there's this disconnect right now within the Packers organization of, we're always talking about scheme. We're playing the wrong coverage. We're playing the wrong front. We're not beating guys at doing our job. We're not beating that guard. We don't have good block protection. We have individual guys winning up front, but the backside isn't filling the holes when we have a jump cut from the running back or he cuts back. Like, there's just some fundamental things that these schemes aren't designed to not work, Marcus. Like
Sure.
the reason they don't work is because we don't coach the players to do it in the right way. And a lot of times what happens, without going off on a tangent here, is when things aren't going well in the run game, offensively or defensively, the coaching staff gets together sometimes and they'll go, well, we can't run these plays. We need new plays, because they're good at drawing things up on paper. We'll just run these schemes now. We see it with the Raiders right now with Josh Jacobs running jet sweeps, okay? Instead of teaching the players how to execute the plays the right way, instead of spending more time in individual work, teaching these guys, giving them the confidence to win their individual matchups, we start changing things around and looking for other reasons why it couldn't work. They have the talent. The scheme is not the problem. Teach the guys how to execute at a higher level. You're going to get a better outcome.
Such a great.
So what I heard there, same thing on the offensive side of the ball. I've got another clip of him talking about offense. If we have time, we'll get to it. What I heard there was like a former Green Bay Packer, first ballot Hall of Fame quarterback said last year, we need to simplify things. And when Mike Wall and I talked earlier, whatever it was, last week, 2 weeks ago, whenever it was, he's like, yeah, I think there is a little bit of that. Why not give this offense and say, you know what, look, we're going to have 1 or 2 play calls this week where it's just going to be you against the guy across from you. And this is offensive line specifically, right? And I know we're talking defense, but the same thing applies. I want you to go out there. We're just going to play straightforward, straight ahead. And he goes on a little tangent on the offensive side of the ball. I don't know if I got it in my clip where he talks about duo, talking about kind of leaning on duo and leaning on double teams and this and that, where you just go out there and kick the guy across from you right in the freaking gonads, dude. Just go beat the guy across from you this one play. But we're so concerned with, well, if we pull the guard, we can get a +1 hat here. And then if you actually let him come through and we attack with a sift block, now we've got a +1 here, and everybody's constantly thinking, right? And that's what Aaron was talking about was, it's another thing too. I posted a clip earlier, but where, Jordan Love has only completed 5 RPO passes this year, right? And like Ben Fennell pointed it out on Twitter. And you look at that and you go and you wonder why the offense has struggled to run the ball. There is no threat of that RPO action right now. There's just none. Defenses don't go out there and fear that, right? And the reason being is because we're not blowing people off the ball. And the reason being is we're running 7 different types of run schemes where our offensive line has not gotten comfortable at all. Get good at one thing, then get good at the next, right? And I think that's the thing that a lot of people overlook, especially on the offensive side of the ball, is we just expected everybody to come out and just keep firing on all cylinders last year in the running, like we did last year in the running game. And that's not the case when you change quarterbacks. But anyway, back to defense.
You know what that reminded me of?
Yeah, go ahead, man. I want to get your take on it.
I went on a date with a girl one time. It's the one and only time.
It's going to be good.
Never been to a Cheesecake Factory. It was in Nashville. And they brought the menu. And it looked like the Bible. I was like, they can't do all this good. They can't be doing all this right.
Yep.
Like, and that's what I thought in my head just as you said that. I don't know why. Sorry.
No, you're just spot on.
The menu's too big, man. It's too big. You can't be that specialized and that good at everything. You got to hone down what's your main dish, man. Let me know what you're good at.
And the West Coast offense, guys, in its infancy, like when they first created it, you can go back and there's a great book. I just finished it. I'm going to go back and read it again, listen to it again. It's called The Score Takes Care of Itself, and it's about Bill Walsh. And he said, we run the same passing concepts. Like we do the same thing pretty much every single play. We just present it out of different formations and different looks, right? Simplicity with the illusion of complexity. In Green Bay right now, man, there's a lot of complexity and very little simplicity. There really is. But what are you laughing about, Jacob? What just happened?
Our Showers in the chat. He says, how was their defense? Prevent? ?
Oh, no. Our Showers, I'm about to put you in timeout, dude. You always have a problem. Jake Shabink in the chat said, coaches can't be your eyes, instincts, and reactionary athleticism on the field. Yeah, very well said, Jake. It just sometimes I wish I hadn't watched the tape, and it would be so easy to jump in with everyone else on X and just go, yeah, Joe Barry's the problem. That'll fix everything, right? But like we pointed out in the past, it's like, It was how many websites? There's got to be a shortage on domain names now, Jacob, because it was it was firedomcapers.com, right? And it was firemikepetton.com. Now we got firejoeberry.com. Like sooner or later, we're going to run out of web space.
I read an article today about Jim Leonard, how people are saying, "Oh, we got to get Jim Leonard in here," blah blah blah. And in the article, they highlighted this is basically Mike Pettin 2.0. Like they have the very similar defensive schemes, almost to like a shocking amount. So yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people that maybe you look back at the Mike Pettin days and you start thinking, it wasn't so bad, was it? Like same thing with Tom Capers, and it's all like, I just, I don't know, man. I don't know what to think. It is weird to me that certain organizations, like the Bears, with never having a quarterback, and whatever, the Dolphins never being able to win a Super Bowl, same with the Bills. It's just like there's certain curses. For us, it's defensive coordinator and just not a solid D. I don't know why. It seems so weird. We're in the middle of the freaking frozen tundra. You'd think that we'd have just these smashers, just these bloody faced bruisers, and instead we got
Nah, it's so true, man. It's so true. Going back a little bit in the chat here, Casey said Amari Rodgers, and it still took too long. Very, very good. Yeah, that was the one, the third round pick that we recently let go. Remember, I asked that question, Jacob. So there, the cat's back. What's the cat telling us now, Jacob? What's going to be next? What other jerseys you got in there that he's going to warn us about, or she's going to warn us about?
I hope none of them.
Good.
Like good? I did have my. If you guys can see, I have a full size, authentic, like legit helmet. And of course, it's signed by Bob Tonyan. So.
Oh no! Hey,
wipe that off.
Come on, bro. Yeah, you gotta fake an autograph on that. Right? That's what I've done with all these. All these are fake back here.
If we're in the fourth quarter and we're down and we need what do you call that in the baseball where they put the hats on upside down?
Oh, the rally cap, man.
Rally cap. I'll throw that helmet on and I'll start just all jacked up. It worked for the Saints game. So
let's do this, man. Let's hit on what Mike Wall said offensively, and then we'll wrap this thing up. Okay, this is a little bit shorter of a video. It's 2 minutes and 20 seconds, but I want you guys to hear. And I'm sorry if it's too loud. I apologize. I have tried so hard to adjust the volumes, and I can't get this program right. Twitter is horrible. I could play it on Twitter, and I can control the volume, but it's always so low you can barely hear it. And it seems like when I play a video on here, it's so loud it blows people's eardrums out. But I apologize. Be prepared to turn the volume down. But here's Mike Wall talking about the Packers' offense and more specifically their running game.
We'd all be really worried about it before the game, and then it would work. It, like, for the longest time, it felt like whatever combination that Adam Stenavich put together or threw out there, usually it worked, and then a few exceptions being in the playoffs, interestingly enough. But, like, what are their biggest issues just in terms of the line right now? You talk about how the coaching might factor in. Help me out with that.
Well, listen, the most obvious thing that we never want to talk about is you don't have a Hall of Fame quarterback anymore, and that makes an incredible difference in how the defense that you're playing against thinks about you and the adjustments you can make on the line of scrimmage to make a bad play a good one. How many times we're going to see him this weekend, but how many times was Devontae Adams the recipient of a hand signal that turned a bad play into a good play? Well, we never really knew the answer to that, but I think we're starting to find out it was more than we'd like to admit with Aaron Rodgers and company. So I would say that certainly I think Adam Stenavich, I feel like the Adam Stenavich years in the offensive line room, that was one of the better offensive lines that we've had in the last 10 years. And now he's out. He's an offensive coordinator, and they have somebody new in there. I don't know that they're playing at the same level, but it would be unfair of me to put blame specifically on that person, that coach, Butkus, when the truth is you have a new quarterback, you have new wide receivers. Everybody's young on that team except for the running backs and the offensive line. The offensive line is young as well, but that's directly who we're talking about. Everybody else quarterback down. They just don't have the ability to make the adjustments, make those little zipper looks, those smoke reads, those little plays in the game that turn, a 2-yard loss into a 20-yard gain. And on top of that, we're losing to guys in the run game in the one-on-one battles. Alan McNeil, obviously Hutchinson last week. There's just guys that are beating you individually. So there's enough blame to go around here, Marcus. But bottom line for me, it's always like, I'm an individual player. What can I do to make myself better? How do I put myself in a situation to be prepared, to feel like I have the best chance at being successful this week? And how do I bring the people around me up, right? Those are the questions that have to be answered at the individual level of each person's locker this week.
All right. So, just kind of pointing out, and like he said, we all know it. Some people don't want to admit it. And it's not about who was right or who was wrong. It's like the whole motion thing too, Jacob. I've got so many receipts that I could be flashing right now on the lack of motion and how it wasn't Aaron Rodgers was preventing us from running more motion. We ran more motion last year than we did the year before, and now we're running less motion this year than we did last year. But you go into a season where you're removing a Hall of Fame quarterback. And I heard people talk about this in the offseason saying it's ridiculous that they think this team's going to regress this much just because Aaron isn't on the team. And all of a sudden the offensive line is going to be bad because Aaron isn't on the team. They weren't taking into consideration the setting of the protection, right? That's the big thing that's missing right now. That and your center is playing like doo-doo. Okay, that's part of it too. But think of this: how many times Aaron and we probably didn't notice. I know I didn't notice it as much as it happened. But you come to the line of scrimmage, right? You look at the defensive front. You look at I'm telling you, if you guys will go back and listen to the Aaron Rodgers segment on Pat McAfee's show last week and get beyond the Mr. Pfizer comment and listen to what he talked about of setting protections with specific fronts, over fronts, under fronts, odd fronts, bare fronts, jams, all those things. And you can tell what they're going to do and how you need to set the protection just from the alignment of the defensive lineman. So he would come to the line of scrimmage and Josh would go, okay, 52 is the mic. And Aaron would hear that and go, hey, check. And everybody's attention, check. No. And he would say, slide Orbo. And that meant this guy's the mic, or that meant we're going to slide left or we're going to slide right. And now the protection is completely changed from what Josh Myers said it to. Oh, and just so happens it was the perfect call on a protection. That's how you get free rushers. That's how not only do you get free rushers, but it's how some people get blown up into the backfield. When you look at somebody like Royce Newman and you see him getting drove into the quarterback, immediately what we all think, myself included, is, well, he's just soft, man. He's getting beat. I promise you, a portion of that is mentally him going, do we have the protection right? Are we prepared here? What's the snap count? I'm not used to this guy's cadence yet. Is the snap going to become, be a clean exchange from the center to the quarterback? There's a lot of different things that go. Oh, by the way, there's an RPO aspect of this play. There's an RPO built in, meaning I can't get downfield too soon or else it's going to be ineligible downfield. Like there's a lot of things that come into that. That's what 12 meant by we need to simplify things. And when they brung it up in a press conference, Jacob, Matt LaFleur's response was, I don't know what that means. And he was arrogant about it. And everybody's like, that's right, coach, tell him. And he told Aaron, didn't he? It's going, all right, here we are 1 year later. And these guys look like they don't have a clue what's coming or going, right? And it hurts. You're missing Bakhtiari, right? The good thing is you're getting your enforcer back this week. Elton Jenkins, number 74, is going to be lined up at left guard, and he is the enforcer on that offensive line. If there's anybody who's going to push these guys, it's going to be him. Everybody on that offensive line needs to lean on him. And then obviously the fact that we're going to have Zach Tom, if they stick to the same game plan from the week before, they being the Raiders, we'll have Zach Tom absorbing Max Crosby as much as possible, probably 2/3 of his pass rushing snaps. So, but what Mike Wall said just now, Jacob, what comes to mind for you? Do you disagree? Is there anything in there I'm overlooking?
No, I mean, like we talked about, I do wonder. I'd like to learn the dynamics of like when we lost Stenovich to be in the OC, right? Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah.
And so is it Luke Guzzi? Or I'm sorry, Luke Guzzi.
Yeah, we lost Getsy. Getsy was the offensive coordinator. Stenovich was the offensive line coach. So we lost Getsy to Chicago. Stenovich is promoted to OC, and now Buckets is the offensive line coach. Correct.
And so is there obviously I've never been in an NFL facility. I've never seen NFL practice or been in on what the inner goings are. So is Stenovich so preoccupied that he can't look over and look at what Butkus is doing and be like, hey, dude, you're you're messing all this up. Like everything I did last year, the last couple of years, like you need to be doing it this way or that way. Or do they just give them, I guess, a long leash like we talked about and being like, hey man, this is your game now. This is your system. This is your squad. Because in my opinion, like I don't know how the jump off from one coach to the next when you have relatively the same talent. You know what I'm saying? So like I just and one does then what is stopping Butkus from going to Stenovich and being like, yo, what am I doing wrong? Is there something that you would improve on here? Maybe that conversation has happened and I don't know that. So
Right.
To me, it just seems so weird that you could jump and kind of fall off a cliff in a certain aspect that was one of your strong suits. And I'd argue that maybe our offensive line on paper should have been better this year than it was last year, just with guys having more experience, having, all that kind of stuff growing in the system. So that was what maybe stuck out to me. I love listening to Mike though. He's just, he's very, he's knowledgeable. And I hate to say that I don't want to say he's cocky, but he's very confident because he's done it. He's literally been an offensive starter.
And now he's teaching it to other NFL players.
And so people that I've read some comments where people are like, what does he know? Like, he literally knows everything. He literally was like,
Bro,
what do you know?
Those are what get me the most, dude. It's like, well, just because they played doesn't mean they're really okay. Gotcha. All right, yeah. So you keep living in fantasy land. I'm gonna listen to this dude who did it for 9, 10, 11 years. Oh, by the way, made the Pro Bowl.
You have to do it this way on Madden.
Yeah,
like,
well, I mean, obviously, it blows my mind. And the ones that drive me the craziest are the ones who get, on the watch parties. And they're drunk out of their mind and they don't know what the hell they're talking about. I'm going, and then the next day it's like that didn't even happen. It's just back to, I made a comment one time. This was last year, going into it was the off season last year. Okay. So not this off season that just passed, but the one before. I commented on a podcast, live YouTube show. And I said, Kenny Clark, is he really worth, $20 million cap hit? And the guy went, Kenny Clark's worth whatever Kenny Clark wants. And I was like, how the hell does this guy have a show? What does that even mean? So because of his name, he's worth whatever money what? But yeah, when it comes to people like Mike Wall, Kurt Warner last year, when he was, please go back and watch him break down the tape of Aaron Rodgers last year when everybody was in these heated debates and discussions about how everybody, Aaron Rodgers is the reason this offense is struggling, right? And this and that. Kurt Warner literally was going at people on Twitter and going, you can't throw that ball right there. That's a hospital ball. You can't do that. That's not how this play's designed. This play's first read is here. And there were people in the comments of Kurt Warner making that video, and they were going, well, obviously Kurt's been so far removed from the game, he doesn't like what? He's a first ballot Hall of Fame quarterback who is getting paid a ton of money to talk football every single week on a pregame show. But your arrogance is forcing you to believe that you understand the game better than him. I know there's guys running wide open. And Kurt's going, he's not open. He's not even a part of the initial read. What you're asking is the quarterback to be able to mind read and think, okay, forget what where the play was designed to go. Forget what our pre-snap keys are. Forget what our post-snap reads are. And just go to the guy who's open. For God's sakes, Jacob, look at your screen and push the right button. That's what it cracks me up, dude. And I'm like, oh. So anyway, listen to former players. And does it mean they're always right? No. Nobody's right 100% of the time, right? But please don't get your information from people who never played the game, never, not that you can't consume that information or that content. I consume that type of content every day. Just know who's speaking. And for God's sakes, don't embarrass yourself, cutting down a former NFL player and trying to convince yourself that you understand more than them. That just always blows my mind. It does. I completely agree, Garrett. He says 1265 needs to hire Mike Wall. If they did, I'm pretty sure him and LaFleur would clash really quick. Yeah, the first thing Mike would do is go up to the whiteboard and go, you like to run this little scheme, this little scheme, this little scheme. Get that stuff out of here. And like Mike said, he's not opposed to multiple scheme. He's just like he said on our show. He said a good offensive line can do everything. This isn't a good offensive line right now. So you've got to key in on what they do well, right? And again, let's see here. There's something else here I wanted to hit on. Someone comment, and then we'll get ready to wrap this thing up. Where was it? I like what Carly Ray said here. We'll hit this one real quick. Bill Belichick might be out of a job next season. Maybe we can hire him as DC, winky face. Yeah, that's a very interesting situation over there with Coach Belichick. Because, I mean, like he would – obviously there are multiple teams that would hire him in a blink. But I don't know if they'll actually fire him or not. He's got to be coming down the stretch here and ready to retire just about. But let's see right here.
To me, that shows how crazy of a league this is. That it's basically what have you done lately that Bill Belichick could possibly be fired.
Hey, NFL, not for long. That's what it stands for, not for long. Our shower says Marshawn Lynch was on a podcast explaining how Rodgers changed stuff all the time at Cal too. He credits AR with a ton of his eventual success. I was surprised by that. Now, let's back up here a second, okay? Do you guys remember, was it Martellus Bennett? I can't remember who it was. There was a former player that played with Aaron, and he said that they were on the field one time, and multiple times, I should say, and Mike McCarthy called the play in, and Aaron in the huddle said, we ain't running that. And he called a different play in the huddle, and they went out, and he said, and then he changed it on the fly. They converted it, got him in field goal range, kicked the field goal, won the game. He said, I had never seen nothing like that before in my life. The Rodgers haters immediately was, see, he's not running the coach's offense. They immediately went to this angle of this is why we're not succeeding because he's changed. But you conveniently left off the part that you won the game, right? Like, and the great quarterbacks, that's what I was trying to argue last year was going, I used to feel like that. I used to be one of those fans. And thank you, R. Showers, for the chat. I used to let's see right here. There's another one real quick. Showers Marshawn gave 12 credit for his career opportunity at Cal. I was so surprised. Yeah, Marshawn absolutely loves Aaron. Said he lied to the coaches too to keep him on the team. Like he covered for Marshawn a lot. Those are the type of things that happen that players will go to bat for somebody. But anyway, I can't remember where I was going. There was something there from last year. It doesn't matter. You know, Aaron Rodgers isn't a Packer anymore. It's just trying to draw that parallel with what's going on right now. I want answers, even if I don't like the answers, right? Even if I looked up, I promise you guys, if I looked up on defense and seen this is a scheme problem, I'd be the first to say it because I want to identify the problem and freaking fix it. The problem is the scheme isn't the problem. The players are underperforming. Now it goes, okay, well, is that on the coaches not getting them prepared, or is that on Joe Barry or is that on the players for not, playing up to par, or maybe they're not, good enough players. And one thing it does hurt me, Jacob, is when people talk about where they were drafted and they go, well, they should be able to do better. These are all first round picks. And I'm like, just because someone's a first round pick does not mean they're a great player. Okay. And it's amazing how that's the argument in season. This kind of goes hand in hand with the salary cap talk that I always laugh about with the doom and gloomers. In season, it's these guys are first round picks. They're good. Our defensive coordinator sucks. But then when you get into the off season, right, how quick they say, well, it's not a guarantee when you draft the first rounder. It's like a 30% success rate. And they change their tune completely. But anyway, what else you got, Jacob?
I just want to highlight a couple of funny comments by Garrett. He's on fire here. He says, Clayton, you're wrong. My wife is right 100% of the time, according to her. And then he said that Maybelline Matt needs someone to hold him accountable.
Maybelline Matt. Oh, please.
Maybe he's born with it.
Maybe I wish we hadn't read that because if that gets legs, we'll get blamed for it. But I will say though that listen, there was a time. This is going to sound silly. I don't want to come across as insensitive, but like you've got these professional athletes, right? And you're asking them to be in peak shape to the tune of within 2 or 3 pounds of a goal weight, right? And if they're over that, then you're on them, you're fining them and all this stuff. When a coaching staff comes in and they're morbidly obese, right? And you're yelling at players going, it's like, hold up a minute now. You're not leading by example, first of all, right? I kind of felt that way with McCarthy, and I love McCarthy. McCarthy's one of my favorite all-time coaches. But I kind of felt like, Mike, man, you got to get it together, dude. Like, these players aren't going to respect you. Like, how are they going to take their physical, shape serious if you don't take yours serious, right? And then they fire him and they hire Matt LaFleur, and I immediately was like, all right, look, we're going new age, coach. These guys are going to come in. They look like they're fit, they're trim, they're in shape. That aspect of the quote unquote laziness of the roster is now gone. You heard rumors of coaches getting massages while practices were going on and all that stuff, right? All that's gone. But now I find myself, Jacob, I'm looking up and I look over at Detroit and go, I would go to battle with Dan Campbell. Yeah. And I see Matt and I go, man, he spent a lot of time on that beard today, bro. Like, it's tough. It's tough sometimes. But I don't want this to turn into a Matt LaFleur bash fest. I want him to work out. I want him to I was the guy that was pounding the table for him 2 years ago, going, he doesn't get the respect he deserves with all these 13-win seasons. Yep. But we got to earn it, right? We got to prove it this year. And I'm excited to see what they do coming out of this little extra time, and then going into the bye and being able to kind of get things right. But yeah, McDaniels is another one. Adam, great comparison there. McDaniels is softer. There's the silver lining. McDaniels does have that same vibe to him, and he's a grinder too, is what's crazy. Like, that's how he worked his way up. He started at the bottom at Patriot Place and worked himself up the ranks, learning splits. I think his initial job was like, he was a slappy, just like everybody else coming into the business. And his job was to report on splits. He had to watch every tape of every opponent, the upcoming opponent, watch every one of their games and chart where their wide receivers lined up and how wide their splits were, and give that to Belichick. So he started at the very bottom. But yeah, he's definitely got that soft feel to him. There's no doubt about it, man. Let's see. SoPro in the chat. This will be the last one. He does, but he's also a player's coach and a pretty good play caller. And I think a player's coach is very important. You just got to have that balance. SoPro. I agree, man. I think he's a great play caller. Jacob, there's one thing that I feel really confident in right now. And guys, stop chatting. I don't want you to waste your time chatting. We're going to wrap this thing up now. There's one thing I've noticed on tape that gives me a lot of hope about this season. LaFleur's passing game, bro, he is scheming stuff open. I'm telling you, it's there, man. It's exciting. Now, we've got to get that run game. We got to simplify the running game. Let Matt cook on these passing concepts, and Jordan Love has got to be held accountable to check the ball down. If he checks the ball down in that last game, especially early in the first quarter, I think we got a different ball game there. That's the other two. People are acting like we got absolutely annihilated. We lost by 14 points to one of the best teams in the league is what, everybody's saying. And that's, starting off with a 24-3 beginning to that game, to come out and only lose by 14 points. That says a lot about how the team fought. So let's see if we can carry some of that momentum into this week. So Garrett Stritzel said, Matt just needs to act a little tougher immediately. This is what I thought of, Jacob.
All right, hey, that's just the way we talk in the clink.
Could you imagine Matt LaFleur walking in the locker room dressed like Prison Mike today? you think I won't push you up against the wall? All right, Jake, what do you got, Jake?
Yeah, so what you just kind of highlighted on, just parting with this little bit of tidbit of information, I do think that we want to try to establish the run, but in this specific game, going against these Las Vegas Raiders outside starting cornerbacks, Marcus Peters and the rookie Jacorian Bennett, they've allowed over 200 yards passing, I believe each. Ran out of time. I couldn't fact check that, but I believe it's each. Peters versus the opposing quarterback. Quarterback has a rating of 101.24. Bennett has a rating of 134.8. They both have an 80% completion rating against them. So we need to pepper those guys a lot. This game.
No, and limit the blind play action. Nobody's convinced you're running the ball. Okay, yeah. Like, just if you're going to run the ball, let's run some wide zone. Right, let's stretch them horizontally, and then when it comes to the passing concepts, let's divide and conquer there a bit. Time to unleash Watson is what SoPro said. Absolutely, man. Our shower says Matt LaFleur in prison. Don't get me going about how that would go. Don't drop the soap.
Don't drop the soap. Don't drop the soap. He'd be the belle of the ball.
Oh my God, dude, I love it. We're off the rails here, man.
Yeah,
no doubt about it.
What the hell's going on out here?
That's how we'll end it right there. All right. Thank you guys in the chat. You guys are absolutely awesome. Want to give a quick shout out to our guy or gal, maybe. Newest member. Nope, it's a guy. Well, it's 2023. We don't know. Fred Henry. Fred Henry, new YouTube member of the PTA Posse. Welcome aboard, buddy. We appreciate you supporting the stream. We'll get you entered into that autographed John Kuhn jersey drawing there. And our boy AJJ, waiting to hear back from him. He should be getting his autographed Lucas Van Ness jersey any second. It was supposed to be delivered today. So hopefully we didn't have a Packer fan delivering that for UPS or FedEx, because they might have just put that in their pocket. But it should be getting delivered any day now. SoPro in the chat said, amazing show. You ain't got a lot of, listen, you lie to your friends, I'll lie to mine, but let's don't lie to each other. All right. This thing was off the rails and you know it. Jacob, appreciate your time, buddy. This is always a blast hanging out with you. For those of you listening on the pod, thank you for making us a part of your day. We'll be back tomorrow, one final episode before we get ready for Monday Night Football. And then, of course, we'll be up till the butt crack of dawn Monday night, Tuesday morning with the post-game show. So appreciate everybody. Y'all have a great day. Stay safe tonight. Enjoy the college football. Go Irish. Go Wildcats. And hopefully Wisconsin pulls that one off for you there, Jacob. I'm not sure if it's over yet or not. But what are you laughing about? See, now I got to go back to the chat.
Dang chat, man. The chat's off the rails. Don't even read them.
Yeah. Lord have mercy. Garrett. I get Garrett is, like I said before in one of Ryan's chats, Garrett comments on my hair more than Mandy does, bro. No doubt about it. Appreciate the support, though. All right, we're out of here, y'all. Y'all have a great day. Be safe tonight. God bless.
The power sweep. Actually, it's the lead play in our offense.
Tell the tackle, take the defensive end if he's over him. If he's not, you drive down the first man who is inside. Pull back and tell him to take the first man outside the offensive tackle. No one goes. Go right by them and field inside. If the YN has the linebacker taken out, he cuts inside. If the YN has the linebacker in, he comes all the way around. If you look at this play, what we're trying to get is a seal here and a seal here, and try to run this play in the alley.